Welcome to your in-depth weekly astrology overview and zodiac forecast for week commencing the 4th of November. I'm going to share some standout details for you to begin with of what's going to be a truly historic week. Then I'm going to share on screen the event chart right at the start of the week. That always gives us some very important information that will provide a backdrop for the following 7 days. Then as planetary influences chime in as the week goes on, I'll go through those before going through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces to give you a flavour of what you can expect in terms of your ascendant, sun or the moon. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. It's great to have your company. If you're new here, please help the channel to thrive. Click that sub button and also the bell notification symbol. Now you can get your free zodiac, love and Chinese forecast written for next year if you order your year 2025 personal horoscope forecast, which is based on your unique birth data. There's also 30% off that. I'll give you the rest of this year free, but you'll also get your life roadmap report. The combination of all this information, which is totally unique, the personal reports for the person it's produced for, will give you searing insights to guide your moves. But also, if you've ordered that package before and you don't want your life roadmap again, if you order the draconic version, you can get your soul, your karmic chart, which will give you a much deeper understanding of your life in terms of the nodal influence. Please see below for more. This week is the US election, the presidential election. And you know, the energy that's playing out in the heavens does seem to mirror some of the energy which is being manifested quite actively in that situation. As we enter this week, the clash between Mars and Pluto, which reached a peak as last week came to a close, is still very much in effect, but Mars repositions at the start of this week into the fire sign of Leo. It forges a fantastic link to Mercury, which has just moved into the sign of Sagittarius. So that brings a more fiery dimension to the equation. But we also have Venus in Sagittarius, and that's in an opposition with Jupiter as we go into this new week. Now, I feel the Mars-Pluto opposition is still in effect, even though Mars moves right through to the 13th of this month. It's just that Mars goes into that fire sign. Now, Pluto, of course, is going to be moving on the 19th of November into the sign of Aquarius. If you've yet to watch my deep dive video on that, please click on the link within this video and you can watch that. But the key here is that particular influence is very much about using power wisely. But it also is about polarities. It's about people taking very forceful positions but seeing things in different ways. The opposition between Venus and Jupiter can actually be very generous. But because Jupiter is in its retrograde and also is in a sign where it's detrimented, the potential for people to use flattery or charm in order to promote a particular message which is not necessarily sincere is definitely strong as this week begins. In fact, as the week goes on, Venus is going to be squaring up to Saturn. And if there is any insincerity, not just in terms of the election, but in terms of our own personal situations, the potential is that some kind of essential truth can be teased out into the open as the week goes on. Furthermore, on Saturday, we have a quarter moon in the sign of Aquarius. Once more, secrets, the sun in Scorpio, challenged by the open agenda of that more Aquarian energy. Also, as the week draws to a close, the sun is in a quincunx with Jupiter. Again, the potential for things to be discussed or revealed or exaggerated is going to be strong. What we can take from this week is that through Monday to Thursday, the Sun forges a very solid link to Saturn. If there's something that we've worked patiently towards, and maybe over quite a long period of time, and it could be financial, or it could be more spiritual, it could be more to do with a deep connection to someone, there is the potential for this to really reach a point of real stability. And through all this furnace of energy that's pouring into this week, it's good to know that there can be something that does call out to some sense of structure, which is what the Sun's link to Saturn is about. Now on the screen now, I'm showing the event chart right at the start of the week. Now I mentioned to you about Mars moving into Leo, Mercury moved into Sagittarius at the end of last week. So we get that fiery energy at the start of the week, but look at the position of the moon, the luminary. It's also in Sagittarius. But you can see the Sun in Scorpio at 12 degrees. So it's moved into the second decan of that sign. So that's a more Piscean influence, really encouraging us to get in touch with how things feel. But you can also see that link to Saturn that's going to be developing as this week goes on. And that can be truly helpful. So as we go into this week, that energy, you can see Mars and Pluto in the opposition, because it will be later on Monday that Mars finds its feet in the sign of Leo. It's going to be there through to the 6th of January next year. It's going to go into retrograde from the 6th of December, but it is going to return back to the sign of Cancer once we get to the 6th of January. So that's going to be really interesting. But Mars in Leo is brilliant if you're a performer, an entertainer, a creative, someone who loves encouraging or working with children on their talents. Certainly it can be very social and it can bring an extra warmth to the equation. But what Venus is square to Saturn is saying is that if there is insincerity that's expressed, it could be revealed in pretty quick time. Now, I'm going to go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces and give you a sense of what you can expect for each over this historic week. So Aries, your week commencing the 4th of November forecast, on the face of it, starts in a really bright, passionate and vibrant way as your ruler Mars moves into your sister fire sign of Leo, but links to Mercury, newly arrived in the sign of Sagittarius. So all that fire energy certainly can help you to manifest a much more dynamic vibe as you come into this new week. Also, Venus and Jupiter were opposite at the end of last week, so there may have been some really bright conversations. But as this week goes on, I feel that you're going to discover some outcomes in a positive way if you've been working patiently behind the scenes on something that's required a lot of persistence and also technical expertise. You could see something reach a high point later this week with the Sun's angle to Saturn. But ironically, later in the week, as Venus squares up to Saturn, around a relationship situation, if something hasn't come into the open yet that perhaps needs to, it may come out then, perhaps on the back of the quarter moon. The quarter moon's in the part of your situation to do with your future. If one association, whether it is a friendship, whether it is a business relationship, or it is a more formal romantic tie, if there is a difference between what you want and they want from the longer term, it could show itself up towards the end of this week. And however much you talk about it, as the Sun and Jupiter forge an inconjunction, a quincunx, it may be difficult to get to a truly connected view. So this week has some mixed blessings. You can feel much more energized, much more positive. You can benefit from a lot of hard work in the past, but there could still be some complexities about some relationships in your situation. You can get your free Zodiac Chinese and love written forecast when you order your year 2025 personal forecast. You'll get the rest of this year free. You'll also get your life roadmap report and 30% off by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Taurus, your week commencing the 4th of November forecast sees your ruling planet Venus right at the heart of proceedings. As you start the week, it's been emphasizing your appreciation of all the good things in life. You may have been very generous over the previous weekend or splashed out on something that's given you a real sense of appreciating life's luxuries or even natural goodies. But as the week begins, Mars relocates into your sector of home and emotion. It's going to be there through to the 6th of January. If you are wanting to make some practical changes to your abode, his link to Mercury in the early part of this week really gives you the opportunity to focus on those practical strands and get cracking. But in terms of relationships, it could be some mixed blessings this week. With the Sun in your sector of relating linking fabulously to Saturn at the start of this week, you could really appreciate someone, a friend, a colleague or a love partner who's shown the same level of commitment as you. Sadly, in the second half of the week, your ruler Venus goes into a square with Neptune. If you're not quite so sure that someone's been as committed or sincere as you, there could be a sense of confusion. Also, the quarter moon, which occurs as the week comes to a close, suggests that around any kind of relationship, if someone wants to seem to dominate proceedings, that could be quite a turn off for you. And in fact, the Sun's in conjunction with Jupiter as the week draws to a close suggests that if you try to be too generous or too giving to the wrong situation, it's not going to be good for you. Now, Saturn gets a bad rap in terms of celestial news, but actually this week it can be your real ally. Ask yourself this simple question. In terms of any alliance, be it with a colleague, be it with a business partnership, a friendship, or in that romantic sphere, if you can honestly say that someone is for the long term, that's where you should put your energies. If you're not so sure, then do proceed with a degree of caution. You can get your free Zodiac, Chinese and love written forecast when you order your year 2025 personal forecast. You'll get the rest of this year free. You'll also get your life roadmap report and 30% off by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Gemini, your week commencing the 4th of November forecast begins with your ruler Mercury having moved into the part of your chart that's to do with partnerships, where there is also Venus. Now Venus starts this week in a brilliant opposition with Jupiter in your sign. If there is someone that you're really feeling a connection to, you can feel really hopeful on the back of those influences. But if things have been a little more strained, the key is to get the lines of communication open. And Mars moving into Leo right at the start of the week will give you more confidence, but also more desire to stay in touch. And Mars's link to Mercury is a very exciting, energized planetary vibe that takes you into this new week. But when it comes to your professional situation, if you've really applied yourself in a very long-term and patient way, the link between the Sun and Saturn at the start of this week really points towards some kind of breakthrough, which can absolutely delight you. What you mustn't do this week, however, if you're meeting new people, is promise more than you can realistically deliver. The reason for that is because of the quarter moon. The 9th house energy of the moon in Aquarius, your sister air sign, is very optimistic, it's very progressive, it's very expansive. But the practical vibe of the Sun in Scorpio is asking you to stay mindful of the details. And unfortunately, details can be clouded towards the end of this week because of Venus's square to Neptune. Now Venus in your sector of relating, that's one of Venus's strongest locations, is going to be challenged by the dreamy, drifting and sometimes confusing vibe of Neptune. So if you are meeting new people, you're discussing a business matter, or there's someone you're drawn to romantically, it is going to be important to be patient, not force the pace too quickly. And unfortunately, if someone is being a bit too mysterious, a bit too unavailable or evasive, do listen to that. And Mercury can help you in this sense. It can help you to penetrate into what's really real around your relationships, and you can use that as this week draws to a close. But because Jupiter in your sign is in a retrograde, it is important to stay grounded at the moment. It is in an obtuse angle with the Sun as this week draws to a close. So finding that balance between what you want from situations as an individual and where you need to be more dedicated, disciplined and sacrificing is also going to be a theme. You can get your free Zodiac, Chinese and love written forecast when you order your year 2025 personal forecast. You'll get the rest of this year free. You'll also get your life roadmap report and 30% off by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Cancer, your week commencing the 4th of November forecast begins with Mars, the planet of passion and drive, moving from your sign into the glamorous Leo. What does this mean for you? Well, if we go back to the 6th of September when Mars arrived in your sign, since then it's given you a lot of extra thrust, self-confidence and conviction to do the things that are right for you. So the move into Leo can help you to see how far you've come and lay down even firmer foundations. Mars also links brilliantly to Mercury. If there's something that you want to get stuck into, particularly around changing your home, whether it's decoration, establishing a home office, decluttering, the energy you're going to have for that can be very strong too. But the Sun this week does continue in your sister water sign of Scorpio, which is all about self-expression, fun, sociability and joys. But the Sun forges a very sensible link to Saturn at the start of this week. And if you have been learning new skills, gaining extra knowledge, doing some research, that too can shape up really positively this week too. But there is a bit of a challenge coming towards the end of this week because someone could guilt you out in quite a big way, and it may be something that they want from you that doesn't quite work for you, and you could be tempted to do what they want, perhaps in some ways because your natural nature is to lean into people's sensitivities. The important thing is that if you do decide to be sacrificing, and that can be a lovely thing, it is a conscious decision. If you feel that someone's almost manipulating you, I would push back as this week draws to a close. You can get your free Zodiac, Chinese and love written forecast when you order your year 2025 personal forecast. You'll get the rest of this year free. You'll also get your life roadmap report and 30% off by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Leo, your week commencing the 4th of November forecast begins in absolutely sparkling fashion. Mars moves into your sign through to the 6th of January and is going to empower you, move you into the moment. Some of the self-doubts and anxieties that may have been to the fore since the 6th of September can fade away. Its glittering alliance with Mercury, which has moved into your sister fire sign of Sagittarius, joining up with Venus, also gives you a push to be more interactive because the Sun has been in a part of your situation to do with rest, reflection and perhaps more home and emotional based issues. But the Sun also forges a great link to Saturn this week, so if you have been working hard on perhaps refinancing or buying or letting a property, that hard work can also be rewarded. What about the quarter moon, which occurs towards the end of the week? Well, that's in your sector of relating. It's possible that you could find yourself, particularly at home or in a family situation, caught between two people who see something in quite a different way. But if that's playing out in your love life, just be aware that Venus's shimmering but rather potentially confusing link with Neptune at the end of this week suggests that however much you like someone, if they're not quite as available as you would like, or you're not quite sure where you stand, you need to just proceed with a degree of caution. But if you do need to push back, set boundaries, be much more in your energy and your activities, that arrival of Mars is really the standout development of this week for you. You can get your free Zodiac, Chinese and love written forecast when you order your year 2025 personal forecast. You'll get the rest of this year free. You'll also get your life roadmap report and 30% off by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Virgo, your week commencing the 4th of November forecast certainly has some contrasting influences. Venus in your sector of home and emotion is in an opposition with Jupiter as you come into this week. It has peaked, but if you have been thinking about property, whether it's renting or buying, this certainly can have drawn you towards the best that you can afford within your budget. But your ruler Mercury has just moved into this area too, and it's possible that a memory from your past is going to be very evocative around your emotional life as you start this week. And part of the reason for that is Mars moves on Monday into your 12th house, a very sheltered area, but one that's very much to do with our subconscious. Through to the 6th of January, you may be surprised by how past events, maybe around your love life or people you worked with, those memories can become all the more powerful and at times can come up unexpectedly. But equally, you could dig into your inner resources and a past skill or asset or knowledge be reapplied in the way that you confront this home situation as you go into this new week. If you need to talk something over, the Sun's divine link with Saturn this week can certainly help you to do it in a very constructive way, as long as the person you're talking to and you keep it really real. Now, it wouldn't be like you not to. It's just that Neptune does create a little bit of distortion towards the end of this week, Virgo, and it's possible, therefore, that your emotions can inform your desires a little bit more than is obvious as Venus squares up with Neptune. Also, the quarter moon, which occurs on Saturday, could see you trying to perhaps be a little too virtuous. You can be uber organised, like to get things working efficiently, and that's a great gift. But I would give yourself permission towards the end of this week actually to chill out, do some things that are pleasurable to you, because Mars being in your 12th house through to the early part of January is going to mean at times that those emotional memories, those past, perhaps at times challenging events, can be very evocative, and that could even feed into your dreams or even your responses to your everyday conversations. You can get your free Zodiac, Chinese and love written forecast when you order your year 2025 personal forecast. You'll get the rest of this year free. You'll also get your life roadmap report and 30% off by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Libra, your ruler Venus is right at the heart of the action this week, forging a sparkling opposition to Jupiter at the start of this week, suggesting you may have enjoyed a really upbeat and lively conversation or connection over the weekend, or will do at the start of this week, because Mars also moves into the most social part of your chart. But think back to the 6th of September when Mars burst into the most dominant part of your chart. the chances are you've been working very hard since then to raise your profile, work on your presence in terms of your professional situation, or just be more self-confident around your ambitions. Now Mars wants you to enjoy yourself more, connect socially, and it's linked to Mercury at the start of this week, suggests an important conversation can also be part of the mix. But what you've been doing in a more practical way to try to improve your financial platform, perhaps making some economies, perhaps being a bit more savvy about your purchases, that also can become more obvious as the Sun links to Saturn. The quarter moon later in the week, however, does suggest that if you are tempted to splash out and you're feeling a bit more speculative and in the mood for a flutter, you need to ask yourself if you can really afford it. Also, with Venus and Neptune in a square, it's possible that the part of you that likes to help people, likes to be very supportive, is something you just need to be mindful of. You can't pour from an empty jug, Libra. So as the week draws to a close, if you do want to focus more on your situation or your social interactions, and you don't feel that you want to do yet another chore or obligation, then do be guided by that thought. You can get your free Zodiac, Chinese and love written forecast when you order your year 2025 personal forecast. You'll get the rest of this year free. You'll also get your life roadmap report and 30% off by clicking on the link beneath this video. Scorpio, your week commencing the 4th of November forecast begins in a storming fashion. Mars, your traditional ruler, makes its way right to the top of your chart through to the 6th of January 2025. This gives you a glorious opportunity to showcase your talents, to raise your profile, to be that much more self-assured in terms of making progress with the things that are truly important to you. Mars also makes a great link to Mercury at the start of this week. If you're talking money, this is going to give you authority but also clarity. The Sun in your sign also forges a fantastic alliance to Saturn. Saturn in your 5th house is asking you to work really hard at your creativity and getting a balance between the things that you're starting or injecting new energy into is going to be easier to find with that alliance too. You also have at the very start of this week an opposition between Venus and Jupiter, which could bring a slice of serendipity into your situation financially, but I have to say that Venus towards the end of this week is conflicted by Neptune. If someone asks you for some kind of financial help or support, however heartfelt their request may be, unless you're absolutely sure of their sincerity, I would be a little bit wary. The quarter moon towards the end of this week, however, does suggest there could be a little bit of a challenge to balance what you want from a situation and what someone very close to you wants or how they see it. So it could be your focus at the moment on what's really important to you may seem to the other person that you're a bit switched out from the more emotional dimension, and that is something you just need to be mindful of as this week draws to a close. You can get your free Zodiac, Chinese and love written forecast when you order your year 2025 personal forecast. You'll get the rest of this year free. You'll also get your life roadmap report and 30% off by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Sagittarius, your week commencing the 4th of November forecast begins in super positive fashion. Mercury, the planet of talk and thought, has arrived in your sign, helping to bring you in the moment. If you have felt a little quieter, reflective, less outgoing, not a surprise. Could still be a little bit of that because of the sun being in your 12th house. But along with Mercury, Mars, the planet of passion, moves into the most adventurous, freedom-loving and open part of your chart, linking to Mercury. So right at the start of this week, a lot of extra vitality. Also, Jupiter, your ruler, is in an opposition with Venus in your sign. You could have connected with someone over the weekend. You can at the start of this week, and there can be a real sense of uplift from that. But it's true to say that the sun's continuing journey through that sheltered 12th house and its link to Saturn this week can make you also mindful of the inner parts of your world. And if you have been working very, very hard to understand your deeper motivations, your needs around security and emotional development, that actually can be a really helpful influence. As the week goes on, however, Venus in your sign, the planet of attraction, but also the planet of money, does square up to Neptune. If you are thinking about spending some money decoratively, perhaps to prepare some accommodation for some guests at Christmas, you could find yourself a little bit uncertain what to do. There may be someone you're drawn to romantically that has a kind of beguiling energy that you could find very, very interesting. But the 12th house position of the sun linking to the quarter moon on Saturday just suggests that if you do talk to any friends or any confidants about that situation, you might not necessarily get the best of advice. In fact, someone could be a little bit mischievous. There could be some stirring. Also, Jupiter, your ruler, is in a challenging angle to the sun as this week draws to a close. So when it comes to relationships, I feel as long as you are very much at the heart of your decision making and not relying too much on other people's viewpoints, angles, and to be honest, agendas, there's a great opportunity this week to be much more dynamic, but you are still working through that sensitive energy in your 12th house, which will come to a close when the sun enters your sign later in November. You can get your free Zodiac, Chinese and love written forecast when you order your year 2025 personal forecast. You'll get the rest of this year free. You'll also get your life roadmap report and 30% off by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Capricorn, your week commencing the 4th of November forecast begins with the passionate Mars moving into one of the most intense parts of its journey through to the 6th of January. This gives you a chance to really up the intensity, particularly when it comes to your sex life. If you do encounter someone in that period of time who makes your pulse race, the chances are it could be hot, hot, hot. But equally, Mars moving into the 8th house can increase the part of your desire to improve your long-term finances. If you are an entrepreneur, you work for yourself, or you have some kind of commercial role linked to your work, you can be very shrewd. And this week, as your ruler Saturn links to the sun, some kind of accord or agreement can be reached, which could prove to be very satisfying. But in terms of an ongoing relationship, with Mercury joining Venus in your 12th house, the 12th house can be where we need to be more conscious of where things aren't going quite so well. It can be where we need to reflect, withdraw a little bit. Now, Mercury actually forges a great link to Mars at the start of this week, and it's possible that your natural canniness can be amplified, and that can help you to analyze an opportunity in a very shrewd way. But Venus in the same location does square up with Neptune. If you do have a conversation with someone towards the end of this week, particularly someone you're involved with or like, and you're not quite sure on how things are, do be a little bit cautious. Also, the quarter moon, which occurs on Saturday for you, is in the second house. That can be about everyday money, but it also can be about our values. If there is someone that you hang out with, a friend, an associate, someone in your circle, and you don't quite align in terms of your values, maybe about money, it could show up as this week draws to a close. You can get your free Zodiac, Chinese and love written forecast when you order your year 2025 personal forecast. You'll get the rest of this year free. You'll also get your life roadmap report and 30% off by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Aquarius, your week commencing the 4th of November forecast begins in a super exciting way. Why? Mars, the planet of desire, moves into your sector of relationships. Now Mars in the 7th house, particularly in a natal chart, can make it a little tricky because people can be quite feisty in terms of setting their boundaries. But because you're such a natural networker, usually very understanding and laid back in relationships, there may be times when you wonder if you could be a little bit more assertive. And through to the 6th of January, this will give you a great chance to stand up what you want from situations, not in an overbearing way, but just be firm. If you are wanting to bring some extra excitement into your love life, the link to Mercury at the start of this week in your sector of friendships and social interaction is also a good news story. So there's a sense of uplift. The Sun's location, however, continues in a very visible part of your chart, giving you the push to go for your ambitions. But there could be a link because the Sun forges a great link to your traditional ruler, Saturn, this week in your sector of finance. If you keep progressing in a very solid, determined, persistent, but also very systematic way, the extra vibe that Mars will give you will help you to reach out towards influential people and make them more mindful of your core talents and your core abilities. However, it is true that as this week goes on, the square between Venus and Neptune does create a shimmering, potentially distorting relationship around some of your connections. There may be someone in your friendship circle who's still inclined to take you a little bit for granted. And that natural generosity, even kindness, which can be part of Aquarians, is something that you should only bestow on people if they truly deserve it. The quarter moon in your sign, which occurs on Saturday, also squares up with the Sun in that very visible 10th house. There may be a situation that gives you an opportunity to showcase your talents, raise your profile, perhaps seize that new position, but you may have to flex a little bit. It might not all be on your terms. There may be an existing organisation which has its own expectations, and that could give you a little bit of a choice as this week draws to a close. You can get your free Zodiac, Chinese and love written forecast when you order your year 2025 personal forecast. You'll get the rest of this year free. You'll also get your life roadmap report and 30% off by clicking on the link beneath this video. Pisces, your week commencing the 4th of November forecast starts very positively with Mars, the planet of drive and passion, moving into a very practical part of your chart, the 6th house. He's going to be there through to the 6th of January. This is going to give you extra stamina to deal with life's challenges. Saturn, the planet of structure, but also of limitation, has been in your sign since March 2023. At times, you may have felt that your energy was a bit on the low side, but Mars moving into this location, linking up brilliantly to Mercury, suggests suggest if you want to apply for a job, do a presentation, consider some retraining or reskilling, the thrust that you can put into this at the start of this week can be really strong. In fact, anything to do with expansion that's well thought through has a great chance of really getting rooted, and that's because Saturn in your sign forges a very solid link to the Sun in your sister water sign of Scorpio. But Mercury, as I mentioned, has moved right to the top of your chart, suggesting there is going to be some extra connection to people in positions of influence. The key, however, with Venus in this area, squaring with Neptune, your ruler, in the second half of this week, is not to try too hard. You know, keep it real. You could be tempted to try to over-egg the pudding in order to make a point. Also, the quarter moon at the end of the week suggests that if something does get discussed that's a little bit tender, it could actually impact on you in a surprising way. You may find yourself feeling a bit more emotional or sensitive to what somebody says to you, and that's because of the ninth house position of the Sun and the 12th house position of the Moon, which can amplify our anxieties. However, it's true to say that as this week draws to a close, that position of Mars is going to give you an opportunity to perhaps work on your fitness, think a little bit more about what you're eating and drinking, perhaps think about making food from scratch, and just put in a little bit more energy into life's organization. Because if those things are running smoothly, that frees up the energy for you to work on the things that really enthuse you. You can get your free Zodiac, Chinese and love written forecast when you order your year 2025 personal forecast. You'll get the rest of this year free. You'll also get your life roadmap report and 30% off by clicking on the link beneath this video.